Another Monday night raw in the ring, they clash. Smackdown Friday night, body slam with a crash. The casual guy talking, don't let it pass. He spits the truth in the wrestling podcast bash. From the top ropes, they dive for the belt defense. Blood, sweat, and tears, they reap what they spin. In the square circle, lives twist and then listen to the tales, the cash guys intent.
All right, we are back with the third episode of the week, the second one that's actually been broadcast, which is cool. We are back here on a Friday getting ready for Bash in Berlin with a very special guest here today, Mr. Ryan in Sactown. Ryan, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, Adam? I'm so pumped to be here, dude. What a great setup. Love the open. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here, man. If you don't know, and I'm sure if you're tuning into this, you probably do know, but Ryan has his own show, The King's Court, part of the If You Don't Like That network, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're building a network there, different shows, different personalities, and it's a lot of fun. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, man. And this is kind of where it all got started for me because I'm a big fan of your and Grant's shows. And I started calling into the King's Court, talking wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think I was in the chat there for a long time, usually post game on King shows or pre-game and all that stuff. And it kind of evolved into that, and I sort of became your official WWE correspondent on Fridays.
You are the man. You are the correspondent talking the squared circle.
And it that with that title bears a lot of weight, and so I took it seriously, and I think you are sort of responsible for this coming to fruition in a roundabout way, sir.
Well, you know what? That means the world to hear, number one. And Grant, who those that don't know, Grant Napier, has been one of my mentors. He has really coached me through to where I'm at. Still got a long ways to go. But one of the biggest lessons he taught me, Adam, was pay it forward. So I am happy to help. You've got a great setup. You've got a great voice. You got the passion for it. Can't wait to see what you're going to be doing here now and in the future.
Yeah, and you hit on that with the passion thing, and like this whole podcast came about due to a passion for it, and it was something that maybe was dormant there for a little bit for me, but going to WrestleMania a few years back like kind of sparked it back up again. And I think when you meet people who are also interested in the same things that you are,
sure,
it sort of builds, and it kind of got me to this point where I've always loved radio, like, listening to Rome, Grant, big Don and Mike guy back in the day as well.
Yep.
And so it's always been one of those things that I've loved like listening to like talk radio. There were a ton of like high school kids listening to talk radio. I don't think back in my day, but you're probably in that category as well. And, at a certain point, I think you want to be behind the mic also, because that's fun.
Yeah, and it's a changing time. It's an amazing time to do this. Anybody can do this. You crack up in a mic, you get a feed, you get a channel, you've got a shot. Before, back in the day, you had to intern at stations, you had to go to school for it. And so it's the gold rush right now. So it's an amazing time for you to get started, and you're doing a great job, Adam. So love it, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate all your help in getting this thing started. I'm still going to call on you. I need some help with the restream stuff, but we can tackle that at a later date.
Yeah, I got you, brother.
We got a little bit, we got about 30 minutes or so to kind of run through this stuff. But as far as maybe we could start with SmackDown tonight. We've got the Michin versus Nia Jax street match.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Michin promo last SmackDown on Friday?
I did not. Dial me
Okay.
in.
So they did this like vignette of her in like one of those smash rooms, and she's got like a bat and she's breaking printers and old Samsung razors or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's leading up to her street fight match with Nia Jax. Um, if you didn't see it, I think meh, I didn't love it, but so I'm guessing you maybe didn't catch the Nia Jax, Tiffy Time, Chelsea Green little cut that they had shortly after that.
That was didn't they do, like, a championship celebration that Tiffy threw for Nia, and Nia's like, "This isn't really my style," and then from there?
Yeah, so that was the week prior they had
Okay.
the celebration, but last week Nia was still upset that Michin interrupted it. And then so Tiffy and your boy's Pretty Deadly
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah.
run
My
off to go.
boys.
They are yours. You own that. I'll take Tiffy. You can have Pretty Deadly. Um, but they run off to go fix Naya's crown, and then around the corner was Chelsea talking about how Tiffy's just waiting for her chance to stab Naya in the back and
Ah,
uh and
okay.
cash in with her. So curious on your thoughts tonight on maybe who you got winning the Nia Jax versus Me Chin, and does Tiffy Time cash in tonight?
I definitely think Nia's going over. I don't see how you don't have her go over in this situation, but I think it's Adam. I think it's too good of a storyline right now to just cut it off where it's at. You got to let this thing grow, and they might have plans, 2, 3 weeks out. But just like the bloodline, as we saw, I remember when Roman Reigns, you talked about being at WrestleManias, sat up there at the press conference afterwards after beating Cody, and he's like, "We're just getting started." Like there is and I'm thinking to myself, well, how far can you go with this now? Like, how is it going to morph? How is it going to change? But it naturally did. So I don't think Tiffy cashes in, but I think they certainly tease that for a while because it's good TV. They work together. Nia's fresh. They're really high on her. So, what about you? How do you see it going?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Nia retains. I don't think Tiffy cashes in either. Some of the things that I was speculating earlier in the week was okay, you've got Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, and
Hmm.
obviously Chelsea and Tiffy sort of have the same gimmick, aesthetic, sort of that prissy girl
Yeah.
thing. And, I like to maybe go with some bold predictions and what ifs. And I was like, what if Pretty Deadly, Tiffy, Chelsea Green, and Piper Niven all team up and gang
Ah,
up on Nia Jax and help Tiffy cash in at some point.
interesting.
And then they could be this
Interesting.
like total gossip girl little clique that they've got going on.
Interesting. Not opposed to that whatsoever. The characters and the personalities match up. I think the Chelsea thing has been fun to watch because she was really just stalling out, not doing much, right? And then all of a sudden, Samantha Irvin, we joke about this all the time, the Chelsea Green, like it somehow got her over, right?
I
It
I
added
think
to her
it totally
character.
did. It absolutely did. It's even more, they encompassed it into her entrance theme
A
song.
100%.
So I love that. There was someone that was kind of a one-off of maybe I don't know, a month or two ago, and she sort of had the same feel as that. I can't remember who it was.
Oh, she got called up from, NXT. I know who you're
Yeah,
talking about. It escapes me right now, but
right.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But I wonder if maybe she gets a call up and fits somewhere in this too, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
they got plenty of options. There's no doubt about that.
so LA Knight issued an open challenge last week to anyone that wants to come fight him at Bash in Berlin, and it seems like we'll know more later tonight. But some of the rumors going around are that it's going to be a triple threat match between LA Knight and maybe um, gosh, it wasn't Santos Escobar.
Pete Dunne?
Was it Pete Dunne in Kaiser, or I'm sorry, Ludwig Kaiser?
Oh, Ludwig Kaiser, yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
So I think we might see something like that. But as for now, LA Knight has no opponent going into Bash in Berlin, but he's there. So
You know, that's a tricky one, right, Adam? Because they're overseas. They're in Berlin. So, do you LA Knight's so hot right now? Do you want to put him against somebody that's from Europe and that's from that side of the world? Because that crowd's going to cheer that person. They'll cheer LA too, but whatever it is, LA is going to go over ultimately. I mean, he has turned himself into a star.
oh, he is the megastar. He
He is a
absolutely
star.
is.
Yes.
I was kind of worried that first week after he got the belt, of where they were going to go with this, but they seem to have been supporting LA Knight with his theme song, with his look, and they are
Right.
projecting him more as that superstar that he claims to be.
100%. You know, he was patient. We've talked about this, but I go
Yeah,
back
he was
to
patient
I go back to Money in the Bank. What, 2
2
years
years
ago
ago.
in London, and everybody I wanted LA Knight to go over, and he doesn't. And it's like, oh, they missed an opportunity, but no, they actually made him. They let him grow into what he is now. He could have just been that one run wonder, right? Where he cashes in, gets a transitional title, and then just drops off to the mid card again. So great job with LA.
100%. And I think that's sort of maybe my beef with the Braun Breaker title, him having the IC title so quick. I think, you look at a guy like LA Knight who's been in the business for 20 plus years and he finally gets his title.
Yeah,
Whereas Braun Breaker sort of, I'm not going to say waltzed in, but he didn't it didn't take him a lot of time
sure.
to earn that championship belt, and I see it from both sides, I suppose, but
Yeah, certainly. And you got to remember too, it's different. You have different people booking the show now. You know, the people that are Triple H, his crew that's booking the shows, they were all heavily in NXT, running NXT during its heyday. And NXT is doing fine right now. But Braun Breaker, he was a champion for over a year, I think, down in NXT. So you never know in their eyes. Maybe he's paid his dues. He's a second generation guy. So it's interesting, but I don't disagree with you because what do you do, Adam? It's either going to be a long run or it's going to putter out. There's really nothing in the middle.
yeah, I struggle with him on the mic.
Yes, I agree with you.
Um,
100%.
and I struggle with his face tan as well. Don't tell him I said that, but his face
We'll
looks
keep it
so
between
tan.
us.
And we might, depending on how many people watch this. But I struggle with his face tan, and yeah, the mic skills, they're just not there yet. And I think you gotta. The only way you get better at that stuff is by doing, and maybe he hasn't had all the opportunity to do it in front of a WWE crowd versus the NXT crowd.
Well, and guys like him, think about this too, Adam. Sometimes the powerhouses, the uber athletic guys, the ones that are physical as hell, that usually can't talk, what happens? They give them a mouthpiece. You get a Paul Heyman, you get somebody like that, and it elevates them as a talent. So who knows? Maybe they're looking or could go down that road with them as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because do you see Paul Heyman coming back to Roman Reigns? I do, but maybe it's not for long.
Why do you think it would be short term? I'm interested to hear that before I answer.
Mm, I think if let's say I'm assuming that the old bloodline gets back together, I think you've got someone who can carry the mic on with Roman, with Jay, maybe less so with Jimmy. But if you bring back Sami Zayn, which I've
Mm,
seen that tossed around too, all three of those guys can carry a mic. The difference is when you look at the new bloodline, you've got one guy controlling the microphone and he's not good with it. And
no.
that's their hang up right now.
Oh,
I mean, it's
totally.
not the only one, but
One of the many. I just I don't want to say I feel bad for Solo, but Jonathan Fatu has absolutely made Solo look like a mid Carter.
yeah.
You've got a main eventer behind him, which isn't all unregular, right? You look at Evolution back in the day, you knew Batista, you knew Orton were going to be stars, but you didn't see the guy being pushed look like the second fiddle in the middle of it. So it's kind of weird, but that's a good point. Maybe Paul Heyman goes back that way and helps him out.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been Paul Heyman's gig too, right? Is like take the guy who's not like unpolished, but he's not completely there, and he can help push this guy and be the mouthpiece for him. And I think a dude like Braun Breaker probably needs that.
Yeah,
Um,
they could do the I don't want to say the cheap pop. I think you have to have at least one reunion with Paul Heyman
yeah,
and the old bloodline before he exits that story or switches over to heel because like you said, they don't need him after that, but I think for old time's sake, you got to have ladies and gentlemen, like out of the blue, the crowd will go freaking nuts for it.
yeah, and to your point, yes, they need a final run with Paul Heyman, but then you're like, okay, well, Roman's been on a couple episodes. Where has Paul been? Because he's been waiting 5 months for Roman to return, but now he's vanished, even though Roman's come back. So I don't know.
Yeah, you got Punk floating around. You also have Brock Lesnar, who's to say he won't be coming back anytime soon. So there's many options there for Paul
Yeah,
Heyman.
I've heard a couple rumors as to why maybe Brock hasn't come back yet, and I think it's kind of tied in with Vinnie Mac,
Yes,
and some
yes.
stuff there. So who knows? But all right, your favorite. I know you're not sick of this. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre for the strap match.
Yes.
What are you thinking, man?
I don't care. Just make the feud end. Let them blow it off. Write them both off TV for 6 months. I think it's got to be Punk. Punk loses at SummerSlam. How long, Adam? How much more mileage can you get out of this whole, wristband thing and yada, yada, yada? Let them go their separate ways. There's rumors out there, not sure if you've heard this, that they're going to keep Punk and Rollins away from each other until WrestleMania season. But I think Punk, especially, it's an ode to Dusty Rhodes in a way, doing the strap match. Which way are you going?
Okay, so I'm not sure, but I think if Drew wins, this thing's over. I think if Punk wins, it's going to continue.
Mm,
Um, and I am maybe not as sick of it as you are. I love this Drew McIntyre where he's not like a heel, but he's just pissed off. And,
yeah, I
um,
agree.
I think this is the best Drew McIntyre we've seen in a long time.
Agree. Yes.
It's not the guy who's bringing out the sword that bends when he hits the ropes, uh,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So I still kind of dig it, but I am getting to a point where I'm like, okay, there needs to be some sort of resolution and move on to that next thing. But um, I think ultimately this has to end with a title match at some point. And I don't see
Interesting.
that happening anytime soon, but is it one of those things that goes dormant for a little bit and then it gets revisited? I think the most likely is the heavyweight championship. And I could see Drew beating Gunther for that,
Mhm.
and then CM Punk challenges McIntyre later down the road for it.
It's not a bad point, and to your point also about this thing still going on, they've only had one match.
Yeah, and it's carried on for, I mean, beyond WrestleMania, right? Like it was going on
It was
before that.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so
It goes
February.
it goes back to Survivor Series when Punk debuted again.
Yeah, and that was what, almost a year ago,
Yeah,
close to it.
damn near a year.
And so I guess behind the scenes, you got to think that Drew McIntyre is the biggest cheerleader for CM Punk.
Explain. You got me intrigued now.
Well, I think considering how Punk left and
Mhm.
he's been gone for so long, Drew knew him back in those days. Same
Sure.
with Seth Rollins and stuff too, which I think Rollins probably has his back.
Mhm.
CM Punk as well. But they like, who can you give the hardest time more than your best friends?
That
And
totally. It's a
that's
good
where
point.
my mind goes, is that these two were so close, and maybe Punk isn't super tight with maybe some of the rest of the roster who's like, this dude left for 10 years, he went out, he flamed out in a bad way, and not that I think that that's really the case, but I think those two have a good relationship and they can riz each other a little bit, or razz each other, whatever.
Well,
Riz
hey,
these kids.
if there's still money there and there's still interest and the crowd's reacting, we are not even close to Royal Rumble. You've got a
Yeah,
lot of time till you get to WrestleMania season, so there's a lot of logic in keeping it going.
100%. I'm not done with it yet. I'm
All
okay with
right.
it going, but uh, okay. We also got Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus the Unholy Union. I think the Unholy Unions maybe overstayed their welcome, but I could also see them still winning, and maybe that's the split for Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair.
Yeah, this is so weird to me because I thought they were gonna lose before the last PLE. And granted, it was only what 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
but since then they've been booked really strong.
Hmm.
So maybe WWE puts them over again. Here's something really interesting, Adam, as we're going through the SmackDown card. I know we're gonna get to Bash in Berlin, but there's only 5 matches on Bash in Berlin. You're getting a lot of big matches the night before the PLE, so I'm interested to see if that's something that's here to stay or if that's something that is temporary, because I don't have a problem with it. It builds momentum going into the show, and then you can focus on the wrestling. I think ultimately Unholy Union, everything says the other two,
Yeah.
Jade and Bianca, but I don't know, man. I think probably a screwy finish again. How do you get this to a big one like Survivor Series or a show like that?
Okay, so I am maybe a bigger supporter of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark,
Hmm.
in kind of what they've been doing. And so I don't know if Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair win, who's gonna beat them? And besides Unholy Union. Um, so I could see Unholy Union winning this
Hmm.
match, and then you get that pure fusion collective. I don't know if you're privy to the new
Yeah,
Shayna Baszler.
yeah, I
I
am.
hate that name. I think
It's so weird.
it's the worst name that anyone's ever come up with for a group.
Pure Fusion Collective. What does that even mean?
I
Anyway,
don't know.
I mean,
It's
it's
provocative.
it's clear WWE is building, in my opinion, building towards a Bianca Belair Jade Cargill match. And Jade Cargill is a great heel. So she's going to be the one that ultimately, in my opinion, will be the heel in that, but that's a WrestleMania match. So is this kind of where you give them 2 or 3 months with the titles, and then they lose them right before the Rumble or something like that, and then one throws the other over the top rope in the Rumble, or maybe they're champions when that happens. I don't know, but it's too soon to me. Unless do you think it's too soon to really start that storyline?
Um, no, I get where you're coming from that it should be a WrestleMania match, but I think it could also be a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Obviously we're coming up on the new year, which signals Netflix.
Oh, good
Um,
point. Great point.
so I mean that's 3 months away, 4 months away. So maybe we think we're further away from that than we
Solid
actually are.
point.
All right. Where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about? We got Cody versus KO. We got the Terror Twins versus Judgment Day. We got Gunther versus Randy Orton. I'll let you choose which one you want to hit.
Why don't we start with, because they're going to split the title matches up. Let's go Gunther and Randy Orton.
Yeah. So do you think this is the top billing match of the night, first off?
I don't. Cody, well, you know what? It absolutely is. It's in Berlin. And yes, it is. I take that back. So do you think it's going to be the main event as well?
I think so too. But I was also kind of on the fence of like, well, you think Cody's going to take second billing, which I think he would, but
Sure.
I think this is the match that everyone there is going to be the most hyped for, right?
Yeah, and
The
it's
hometown boys, so to speak. But
right, and it's part 2 as well. You go back to the whole King of the Ring thing, which is why they had Randy go across brands to challenge here.
mhm.
It feels like it's building Gunther up, or Gunther, however you want to say it. Um, it's building him up, right? It's giving him a real notch on his belt, legitimate win over a 14-time world champion. They have a hell of a match, and Gunther's off to the races with his title run. So I see Gunther completely going over here. Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is a great match. Obviously, we're in Germany. Okay, Gunther is Austrian, by the way.
Right.
I know maybe his outfit looks more German,
Right. He looks German.
so to speak. But so I think they are going to put him over. And to your point, like it legitimizes his title run to beat a dude like Randy Orton right out the gate.
Yep.
He's only had it for a month. I can't recall everyone he's faced since he's held the title, but I think it's only been one defense since he's held it. So I think this is a great match to legitimize Gunther's run as heavyweight champion, and we move forward and give the people what they want. When was the last time Germany had a damn WWE there? Like,
Yeah,
come on.
absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
to your Friday night point too, right? Like having these big matches on Friday night, I think
Mhm.
that's a great plan. Like if you're
Yeah.
going to another country, make that SmackDown huge. You don't know if people got tickets to SmackDown and Bash at Berlin,
Yep.
so put on a hell of a show for both of them, and I
With
think
you.
it's a win-win.
Totally with you. Spot on, Adam.
Uh, well, let's go Cody versus KO, and then we'll tackle the Terror Twins
Yeah.
after
Um,
that.
this is definitely the more interesting of the two. Is this where KO turns heel? Cody's gonna retain in one way or the other. I don't see
Yep.
the title changing here. It just, is there going to be a question of outside interference? Is there going to be anything like that? I could see a little bit of a schmoz, but the big question to me is not who wins this, but does KO turn on Cody here?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so convinced that KO does. They showed the little montages last week where KO turned on his friends to, take a title away
Right.
from someone. And they just keep selling it so much that KO's like, "No, I'm not gonna turn." That I
Right.
don't think he does turn because I think it might be too obvious if he does. So I
Okay.
think it's just one of those good like, I respect you matches where, Cody's gonna raise KO's arm at the end of it. Um, but they just keep laying it on so thick that I'm like, "Okay, he's not turning heel." I think KO's been wearing the red KO shirt, which, that means he's a bad guy, but I don't know.
But I get. You remember, KO did not want this match. He was pretty annoyed about it. So maybe that aggression comes out in the match. Maybe the style he works in the match is more heelish, but then at the end of the match, it's like hug it out for the crowd, whatever. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but you're right. They are making it pretty obvious, putting it right in front of your face.
Yeah, and they're gonna have a face off tonight, of course, on SmackDown. But last week they teamed up Cody and KO versus A Town Down Under.
Yeah.
And if here's what I think about A Town Down Under. I think those dudes got a ton of talent. Obviously, Austin Theory's like shredded and he fits the part. I think he's got good mic skills. Same with Grayson Waller. Uh, Grayson Waller did something that I loved when he walked into the match last week. He ripped a fan sign out of his hand and shredded it and then
Yeah.
threw it back at him. And I think that's the move. If you're A Town Down Under, like, get some real heat behind those guys because they got all the talent. They got everything's there. They just don't have the crowd like loving or hating them either way. Yeah, they don't like them, but they don't hate them.
Yeah, I mean, because I would say out of the two, Waller is probably a little bit more entertaining, a little funnier.
Mhm.
But to your point, those are the things that you got to do. I was at a WWE event. Shit, man, I'm gonna be old here. It must have been 15 years ago. It was right after it was 2000. When did Orton win the Rumble after kicking Vince in the head? That was what, 2008, 2009, 2009, I think is what it was.
Okay.
And I was at a live event. We were sitting front row, and The Miz was with John Morrison at the time. And we were in the aisleway, and The Miz started doing the exact same stuff that you're talking about that Waller did last week. He actually came up and got right in my face, and we went back and forth. And so that was kind of like the shifting time for the Miz. And, eventually it took more years than that, but he worked his way up to that whole SummerSlam. Where is the Miz going to participate against Nexus or not? Right. And he's starting to become a little bit more of a star. Then he ends up winning Money in the Bank and the title, etc. But yeah, I think those things are all the things you have to do. And I think this is kind of a similar situation for both of those guys right now.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's kind of off topic, but I think those dudes deserve a little heel push, and
Sure.
let's get them to where we really hate them. All
Sure.
right. Last up, we got Terror Twins versus the Judgment Day.
It's got to be the Judgment Day. You can't give them their vengeance this quick. Something's got to happen. Something's got to change with the Judgment Day. There's too many of them versus Rhea and Damian Priest. And if I'm not mistaken, Jey Uso is not on this card, right?
No, he is not.
Okay.
And I'm with you there. I talked about this last week. I think what they're doing with Roman and what they're doing with the Terror Twins is proving that they are not enough alone to beat, Judgment Day or the Bloodline, and
Yep.
they're going to need some backup. So, okay, here's a crazy twist.
Yep.
But if you could bring the Bloodline back and then maybe Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley fit into that group as well,
Hmm.
they could take on Judgment Day. They could take on the new bloodline. Not that's another crazy far out
Yeah.
thing that I like to do, but I could see Jey Uso fitting in with the Terror Twins as well. And Rhea and Jay have both been hinting at each other the last few weeks in on social media.
Ah.
So,
Ah. That's where it usually starts then. All
and
right.
Rhea's been wearing a Yeet bracelet.
Has she really? I think you
Mhm.
mentioned that last week. Okay.
Yeah, I might have.
So something to look at then.
Yeah. So, but does it happen this week? I don't know.
Yeah, I see that's where I'm at. I think it's still probably I don't I think ultimately Judgment Day wins. Or do you think cuz if you put Rhea and Damian over, then they've got their comeuppance, right? There's
Right.
no title in Judgment Day for Damian to go after. Obviously, Rhea's got the live thing to go after, but I don't know. I feel like you got to do something to keep this thing moving forward still.
Yeah, I think on the looking at the match alone on its own, it would be no contest Terror Twins, right? But
Yeah,
obviously, here comes Judgment Day, and they're going to do what they do, and they will interfere in the match, and so yeah, I do think Judgment Day ends up winning this one, but I think that builds to the okay, now we've got to go over the top to beat these guys, sort of thing.
agreed.
Cool. Well, I know it's getting about that time. Ryan's got to hit King's Court here at 4 o'clock my time, but 2 o'clock Pacific for those of you who are going to join him. Ryan, thank you for joining me today. It was really cool to have you in here. It's a lot easier to talk with someone else than just riff on your own, but you do that almost every day, minus the callers and stuff. So shout out to you. That is not
Appreciate
an
that,
easy
brother.
thing to do, and you do it well. And I love tuning into your show. But tell them where they can find you once again.
Yeah, for sure. You can find the King's Court, all of our audio podcasts, including audio exclusives. Go to the King's Court with Ryan and Sactown on Apple Podcasts, also Spotify. I think we're on Amazon, Listen App, a ton of other ones. So wherever you listen to your podcasts. But if you want to watch the video versions, go to If You Don't Like That on YouTube, Grant Napier's channel. Our entire library of shows are up there, including all of our Kings pregame, postgame, and halftime shows. We'll be doing that again this season. Only a couple months away, so go check it out there. And dude, you got a hit too. You got to come do your wrestling thing on my show as well.
Yeah, I'm ready,
So,
baby. I'm
all
already
right,
primed up.
perfect. All right, love it.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. I guess that's it, man. We're gonna call it a day, and I'll see you on the King's Court here in a minute.
Live life, twist and bend. Listen to the tales, the
Thanks,
casual
brother.
guys and tech.
Yes, of course.
Of course, we got to go out with this song.
Wrestling we fight. Heroes fall, villains rise and dance the violent dance. Chairs, tables, ladders, stakes, the audience in a trance. The casual guy breaks it down chance by chance. He peels back the curtain, gives secrets a glance.
Gotta love